Projection. This is by far the most common way of dealing with our shadow because it offers almost daily release. Because it offers almost daily release. We cannot admit to ourselves certain desire for sex, for money, for power, for security in some area, and so instead we project those desire onto others. And so instead we project those desire onto others. Sometimes we simply imagine and completely project this quality out of nothing. Sometimes we simply imagine and completely project these qualities out of nothing in order to judge and condemn people. In order to judge and condemn people, other times we find people who express such taboos desire in some form, and we exaggerate them in order to justify our dislike or hatred. For instance, we accuse another person in some conflict of having authoritarian desires. In fact, they are simply defending themselves. We are the ones who secretly, in fact, they are simply defending themselves. They are simply defending themselves. We are the one who secretly wish to dominate. ए ये नहीं, यहाँ तक हो चुका था. हाँ. In fact, they are simply defending themselves. We are the ones who secretly They are the ones who secretly wish to dominate. But if we see it in the other side first, we vent our repressed desire in the form of judgment and justify our own authoritarian our own authoritarian response. Let us say we repressed early on assertive and spontaneous impulses so natural to the child. Unconsciously, we wish to have back such qualities, but we cannot overcome our internal taboos. We look out for those who are less inhibited, more assertive, and open with their ambition. We exaggerate these tendencies. Now we can despise them in thinking about them, given vent to what we cannot admit to ourselves or about ourselves. The great 19th century German composer Richard Wagner frequently expressed anti Semitic sentiments. He blamed Jews for running Western music with their electric taste. He blamed Jews for ruining Western music with their electric taste. Sentimentality and emphasis on technical brilliance. He yearned for a more pure German music which he could create. Most of what he blamed Jews for in music was completely made up. Yet Wagner, strangely enough, had many of the some qualities had that he seemed to hate in Jews. His tastes were quite electric. He had sentimental tendency. Many of the pianists and conductors he worked with were Jews, were Jewish because of their technical proficiency. Remember, behind any vehement hatred is often a secret and very unpalatable envy of the hated person or people. It is only through such hate that it can be released from the unconscious in such form. Consider yourself a detective when it comes to piecing together people's shadow through the various signs you pick up. You can fill in the outlines of their repressed desire and impulsive. This will allow you to anticipate future leakage and old shadow-like behavior. Just assure such behavior never occurs just once, and it will tend to pop up in different areas. If, for instance, you pick up bullying tendency in the way someone argue, you will also see it in other activities. You might entertain the notion that this concept of the shadow is somewhat antiquated, is somewhat somewhat antiquated. After all, we live in a much more rational, significantly oriented culture today. After all, we live in a much more rational, significantly oriented culture today. People are more transparent and self-aware than ever, we might say. We are much less prepared than our ancestors, who had to deal with all sort of pressures from organized religion. The truth, however, might very well be the opposite. In many ways, we are more split than ever between our conscious social self and our unconscious shadow. We live in a culture that enforces powerful codes of correctness that we must abide by our faith, the saying that is now so common on social media. We are supposed to live up to ideals of selflessness when we are impossible. Yeah, yeah. Which are impossible for us because we are not angels. We are supposed to live up to ideals of selflessness, which are impossible for us because we are not angels. All of this drives the dark side of our personality even further underground. We can read sign of this is how deeply and secretly we are all drawn to the dark side in our culture. We thrill at watching shows in which various Machiavellian character manipulate, deceive, and dominate. We laugh up stories in the news of those who have been caught acting out in some way and enjoy the ensuing shaming. Serial killer and diabolical cult leaders enthrall with these shows and the news. We can always become moralistic and talk of how much we despise such villain. But the truth is that the culture constantly feeds us this figure because we are hungry for expression of the dark side. All of this provides a degree of release from the tension we experience in having to play the angel and seem so correct. These are relatively harmless from forms of release, but they are more dangerous one, particularly in the realm of politics. We find ourselves increasingly drawn to leaders who give vent to this dark side, who express the hostility and resentment we all secretly feel. They said things we would dare not say if they satisfy no, if they in the safety of the group and rail to some cause. We have license to project and vent our spleen on various convenient scapegoat. By idealizing the leader and the cause, we are now free to act in ways we could normally shy away from an individuals. This demagogue are adept to exaggerating the threats we face. Are adept to exaggerating the threats we face, painting everything in black and white terms. They stir up the fears, insecurities, and desire for revenge that have gone underground but are waiting at any moment to explode in the group setting. We will find more and more such leaders as we experience greater degrees of repression and inner tension. Hi, Tarun. The writer Robert Louis Stevenson expressed this dynamic in the novel The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, published in 1886. The main character, Dr. Jekyll is a well respected and wealthy doctor scientist with impeccable manners, so much like the paragon of godness in our culture. He invented a concoction that transformed him into Mr. Hyde, the embodiment of his shadow, who proceed to murder and rape and indulge in the wildest of sensual pleasure. Stevenson's idea is the Stevenson's idea is that the more civilized and more we outwardly become, the more potentially dangerous is the shadow, which we so fiercely deny, as the character Dr. Jekyll described it. My devil had long been caged. He came out roaring. The solution is not more repression and correctness. We can never alter human nature through enforced niceness. The pitchfork doesn't work, nor is the solution to seek release for our shadow in the group. Nor is the solution to seek release for our shadow. Nor is the solution to seek release of our shadow in the group, which is volatile and dangerous. Instead, the answer is to see our shadow in action and become more self aware. It is hard to project onto others or our own secret impulses or to over idealize some cause. Once we are made aware of the mechanism operating within us through such self knowledge, we can find a way to integrate the dark side into our consciousness productively and creatively. For more on this, in doing so, we become more authentic and complete, exploiting to the maximum the energies we naturally possess. Oh. Deciphering the shadow contradictory behavior. In the shadow of those in the no, in the course of your life, you will come upon people who have very emphatic traits that set them apart and seem to be the source of their strength, unusual confidence, exceptional nicely and affability, great moral rectitude and res- huh, rectitude and a saintly aura, toughness and rugged masculinity and intimidating intellect. If you look closely at them, you may notice a slight exaggeration to this trait, as if they were performing or laying it on just a little too thick. As a student of human nature, you must understand the reality. The emphatic trait generally rests on top of the opposite trait, distracting the concealing it from public view. We can see two forms of this. Early on in life, some people sense a softness, vulnerability, or insecurity that might prove embarrassing or uncomfortable. They unconsciously develop the opposite trait, a resilience or toughness that lies on the outside like a protective self. The unconsciously develop the opposite trait, a resilience or toughness that lies on the outside like a protective cell. The other scenario is that a person has a quality that they feel might be antisocial. For instance, too much ambition or an inclination to be selfish. They develop the opposite quality, something very prosocial. In both cases, over the year and perfect they have honed and perfect this public image. The underlying weakness or antisocial trait is a key component of their shadow, something denied and repressed. But as the laws of human nature dictate, the deeper the repression, the greater the volatility of the shadow. As they get older or experience stress, there will be crack in the facade. They are playing a role to the extreme, and it is tiring. They are playing a role to the extreme, and it is tiring. Their real self will rebel in the form of moods obsession, secrets, vibes, and behavior that is quite contrary to their image and is often self destructive. Their real self will rebel in the form of moods, obsessions, vices, and behavior that is quite contrary to their image and is often self destructive. Your task is simple. Be extra wary around people who display such emphatic trait. It is very easy to get caught up in the appearance and the first impression. Watch for the sign and emergency of the opposite over time. It is much easier to deal with such type once you understand them. The following are seven of the most common empathic traits that you must learn to recognize and manage appropriately. The tough guy, he project. The tough guy. He projects a rough masculinity that is intended to intimidate. He has a swagger and an air. He projects the tough guy. He projects a rough masculinity that is intended to intimidate. masculinity that is intended to intimidate. He has a swagger and an air that signals he is not to be messed with. He tends to boast about past exploits. The moment he has conquered the brawls, the time out negotiated opponents. Although he seemed extremely convincing in telling such story, they feel exaggerated, almost hard to believe. Do not be fooled by appearances. Such men have learned to conceal any such men such men have learned to conceal an underlying softness, an emotional vulnerability from deep within that terrifies them. On occasion, you will see the sensitive side. They may cry or have a tantrum or suddenly show compassion. They may cry or have a tantrum or suddenly show compassion. Embarrassed by this, they will quickly cover it up with a tough or even cruel act or comment. For the baseball player Reggie Jackson, Yankees manager Billy Martin was just such a brawling type. Jackson could recognize the softness behind the bluster in Martin's touchiness. When it come to his ego, his changing mood, not very masculine, and emotional outbursts that reveal glaring insecurities. Such men will often make terrible decisions under the impact of the emotion that they have tried to conceal and repress, but that inevitably surface. Although they like to dominate women, they will often end up with a wife who clearly dominates them and secret wishes of their. You must not let yourself be intimidated by the front, but also be careful to not stir up their deep insecurities by seeming to doubt their tall tales or masculine nature. They are notoriously touchy and thin-skinned, and you might detect a micropore on their face if you trigger their insecurity before they caught it up with a fierce scowl. They are notoriously touchy and thin-skinned, and you might detect a micropore on their face if you trigger their insecurity before they cover it up with a fierce scowl. If they happen if they happen to be a rival, they are easy to bait into a overreaction that reveals something less than tough. The saint. These people are paragons of goodness and purity. They support the best and the most progressive causes. They support the best and most progressive causes. These people are paragon of goodness and beauty. They support the best and most progressive causes. They can be very spiritual if that is the circle they travel in, or they are above the corruption and compromise of politics, or they have endless compassion for every type of victim. This saint, this saintly exterior developed early on as a way to disguise a strong hunger for power and attention or their strong sensual appetites. The irony is that often by projecting this saintly aura to the ninth degree, they will gain great power. They will gain great power, leading a cult or political party. And once they are in power, the shadow will have space to operate. They will become tolerant, railing at the impure, punishing them if necessary. Maximilian Robespierre, Robespierre nicknamed the incorruptible, nicknamed the incorruptible, who rose to power in the French Revolution, was just such a type. Under his reign, the guillotine, the guillotine was never busier. They are also secretly drawn to sex. They are also secretly drawn to sex, to money, to the limelight, and to what is expressly taboo for their particular saintless. The strain and the temptation are too much. They are the gurus who sleep with their student. They will appear the saint in public, but their family or spouse will see the demonic side in private. They are genuine saint out there, but they do not feel the need to publicize their deeds, or grab power. To distinguish between the real and the fake, ignore their words and the aura they project, focusing on their deeds and the detail of their life. How much they seem to enjoy power, how much seem to enjoy power and attention, how much they seem to enjoy power and attention. The astonishing degree, the astonishing degree of the astonishing degree of wealth they have accumulated, the number of mistresses, the level of self absorption. Once you recognize this type, do not become a naive follower. Keep some distance. If they are enemies, simply shine a light on their clear sign of hypocrisy. As a variation on this, you will find people who profound a philosophy of free love and anything goes, but in fact they are after power. They prefer sex with those who are dependent on them. And of course, anything goes as long as it's on their terms. The passive aggressive charmer. This type are amazingly nice and accommodating when you first meet them, so much so that you tend to let them into your life rather quickly. They smile a lot, they are upbeat and always willing to help. At some point, you may return the favor by hiring them for a job or helping them in their careers. You will detect along the way some cracks in the veneer. Perhaps they make a somewhat critical comment out of the blue, or you hear from friend. Perhaps they make a somewhat critical comment out of the blue, or you hear from friend that they have been talking about you behind your back. Then something ugly occurs, a blow up, some act of sabotage or betrayal. So unlike that nice, charming person you first befriended, the truth is that these type realize early on in life that they have aggressive, envious tendencies that are hard to control. They want power, they intuit that such inclination will make life hard for them. Over many years, they cultivate the opposite facade. Their niceness has an almost aggressive edge through this stratagem. Stratagem, they are able to gain social power, but they secretly resent having to play such a role and be so differential. They can't maintain it under stress or simply worn out by the effort. They will lash out and hurt you. They can do this well now. They can they will lash out and hurt. They can't maintain it under stress or simply worn out by the effort. They will lash out and hurt you. They can do this well now that they know you and your weak spot. They will of course blame you for what ensues. Your best defense is to be wary of people who are too quick to charm and befriend. Your best defense is to be wary of people who are too quick to charm and befriend, too nice and accommodating at first. Your best defense is to be wary of people who are too quick to charm and befriend, too nice and accommodating at first. Such extreme niceness is never natural. Keep your distance and look for some early sign. Such a passive aggressive comment, if you notice that somewhat out of character, they indulge in malicious gossip about someone. Somewhat out of character, they indulge in malicious gossip about someone. You can be sure the shadow is speaking that, and that you will be the target of such gossip one day. If you notice that somewhat out of character, they indulge in malicious gossip about someone, you can be sure the shadow is speaking and that you will be the target of such gossip one day. The fanatic. You are impressed by their fervor in support of whatever cause. They speak forcefully, they allow for no compromise, they will clean things up, restore greatness, they radiate strength and conviction, and because of this gain followers, and because of this they gain followers. They have a flair for drama and capturing attention. But at the key moment when they could possibly deliver what they have promised, they unexpectedly slip up. They become indecisive at the wrong moment, or burn themselves out and fall ill, or take such ill conceived action that it all falls apart. It, uh, it's as if they have suddenly lost belief or secretly wanted to fail. The truth is that such tribe have massive insecurities from early on in life. They have doubt about their self worth. They never felt loved or admired enough, riddled with fears and uncertainty. They cover this up. They cover this up with the mask of great belief in themselves and in their cause. You will notice in their past some shift in their belief system. Sometimes radical, that is because it is not the particular belief that matter but the intense conviction, and so they will shift this around to fit the times. Believe in something is like a drug for them, but the doubt returns. They secretly know they cannot deliver the goods, and so under stress they become the opposite, indecisive and secretly doubtful. They suddenly fire their assistant and manager to give the impression of action, but unconscious. But unconsciously, they are sabotaging themselves with unnecessary change. They have to blow it all up somehow and yet blame others. Never be taken in by the strength of people's conviction and their flair for drama. Flair. Always operate by the rule that the greater the stridency in what they say, the deeper the underlying insecurities and doubts. Do not become a follower. They will make a fool of you. Hi, Revolution. Flair, flair, singer. गुड बिना बोले ही समझ गए थैंक यू and their flair for drama. You tell me what is the color of dark side? You told that you said no that time, so I don't know about it. If you know, then please tell me. I asked first. Now I asked you. So ladies first. Tell me the answer. The rigid nationalist. All of us have irrational tendency. It is a lasting. All of us, no, the rigid rationalist. All of us have irrational tendency. It is the lasting legacy of our primitive origin. We will never get rid of them. We were prone to superstition, to seeing connection between events that have no connection. We are fascinated by coincidences. We anthropomorphize anthropomorph hmm, anthropomorphize and project our feeling. ये क्या है भाई? We are fascinated by coincidence. We anthropomorphize and project our feeling onto other people and the world around us. We secretly consult astrology chart. We must simply accept this. In fact, we often resort to irrationality as a form of relaxation. Silly jokes, meaningless activities, occasionally dabbling in the occult, always being rational can be tiresome. But for some people, this makes them terribly uncomfortable. They experience this primitive thinking as softness, as mysticism, as contrary or to science and technology. Everything merged with and analytical in the extreme. They become devout atheist, not realizing that the concept of God cannot be proven or disproven. It is believed either way. The repressed, however, always return. Their faith in science and technology has a religious air to it. When it comes to an argument, they will impose their idea with extra intellectual heft and even a tuft of anger, which reveal the steering of the primitive within and the hidden emotional need to bully. At the extreme, they will indulge in a love affair that is most irrational and contrary to their image. The professor running off with the young model, or they will make some bad career choice, or fall for some ridiculous financial scheme, or indulge in some conspiracy theory. They are also prone to strange shift in mood and emotional outburst as the shadow still bait them into just such overreaction to prick their bubble of intellectual superiority. True rationality should be sober and skeptical about its own power and not publicize itself. The snob, these type have a tremendous need to be different from other. The snob, these type have a tremendous need. These type has a have a tremendous needs to be different from other, to assert some form of superiority over the mass of mankind. They have the most refined aesthetic taste when it comes to art or film criticism or fine wines or gourmet food or vintage punk rock records. They have amassed impressive knowledge of these things. They put a lot of emphasis on appearances. They are most alternative than other. Their tattoos are more unique in many cases. Uh, they are more alternative than others. Their tattoos are more unique. In many cases, they seem to come from very interesting background, perhaps with some exciting ancestry. Everything surround them is extraordinary. Everything surrounding them is extraordinary. Of course, it later comes out that they were exaggerating or downright lying about their background. Brummel, the notorious snob and dandy of the early 19th century, actually came from a staunch middle class background. The opposite of what the opposite of what he peddled. The family of Carl Lagerfeld, the current channel creative director, did not inherit its money but made it in the most bourgeois fashion. Virtuous fashion. Contrary to the stories he has told, the truth is that banality is part of human existence. Much of our lives is spent doing the most boring and tedious of tasks. For most of us, our parent had normal, unglamorous job. Our parent had normal, unglamorous job. We all have mediocre side to our character and skill. Snobs are especially sensitive about this, greatly insecure about their origins and possible mediocrity. Their way of dealing with this is to distract and deceive with appearances as opposed to real originality in their work, surrounding themselves with the extraordinary and with special knowledge. Underneath it all is a real person waiting to come out, rather ordinary and not so very different. In any case, those who are truly original and different do not need to make a great show of it. In fact, they are often embarrassed by being so different and learn to appear more humble. As an example of this, in the story of Abraham Lincoln in the section below, the extra value of those who go out of their way to make a show of their differences. Till now, I understand you that you are totally against of this book. Means this book does not match your thinking because in every chapter you are not convinced with this writer. The extreme entrepreneur. At first glance, this type seemed to possess very positive qualities. At first glance, this type seemed to possess very positive qualities, especially for work. According to you, If someone wrote the book, that means he or she have that quality. That's why he wrote the book, na? And it's a worldwide famous book. Then why you are not relating to this book? Why you are against of this? Why you are against the thinking of this writer? I don't think it is totally um, fascinated or something else. It is matched with our human behavior, na? Or our behavior towards other. He's trying to are you trying to say that everyone is fool? Is this book has no value, or the writer want? I mean, wait. I told you. Wait. I think so. He thinks so. What? The writer thinks so. What? What does writer think? Oh, that everyone is fool. Hey, oh. So what do you think? Are we fool? So that so that's why we read this book, na? All the things written in this book are totally myth and not related to us. That's why we are reading, na? No sense at all. Yeah, I agree with you that in some point or maybe at some few chapters that line that writer wrote are not matched with us, but not everything. Tell me one simple reason apart from this book why are you not like this author. Tell. He's trying to say deception is good. Oh, that's why. This is the main reason. Apart from deception, everything is good, na? Among this writer. His claim is deception is good. Okay, according to you, deception is not good. That's the point. That's why you are totally against of this writer. Only deception is the point. Okay, tell me one thing. I'm not saying that I'm not in a favor that deception is a good or bad. Just tell me one thing. You have one kid, okay, or you have to feed that baby. So, but that baby only want ice cream and sweet things. Okay, like sweets and chocolates and ice creams. But you have to feed him or her nutritious food. Okay, so what did you do then? You're setting up a critical. All parents do deception with their childrens, and you also know that. So deception is good, not in every way, but in a good way. Doesn't make it right or good. Arey, I'm not making it right. I'm just giving you example that deception is not always bad. It is depend on the situation. Like in like in the field of baby, all parents are do deception with them when they don't want to eat nutritious food. So parents do, telling them lie and feed their children a nutritious food by the name of ice cream or chocolate. Okay, always bad. Huh? Always bad. If they didn't do that, if our parent didn't do deceptions with their infant babies, okay, so babies are started crying and they remain hungry. This is always bad. It creates bigger problem. It depends on the person and situation. I think I give you the perfect example of deception in the field of babies and the parents. Little babies don't want to eat good things. They only want to eat bad, sugary items like chocolate, toffee, sweets, and ice creams. That that is not good for their health. But what do parents did? What did our parent did to us? In the name of sweet foods, they feed us nutritious food, huh? Like rice, curry, and vegetables. Try to understand in a different way of the narration's perceptions so that you relate these lines and these chapters. I'm understanding. Oh, thank God. I'm able to get you understand. Thank you. The extreme entrepreneur. At first glance these types memory. It's always bad to deceive. Yeah, I agree with you, but not in every situation. It's depend on situation. Child might grow up and find out the lie and think the lesson that it's okay to cheat. Not in a bad way. Do deception in a good way. Like to feed a hungry baby who are demanding for sweets that is not good for their health. So in that case, deception is good. By the name of the sweets, by giving or showing them sweets, our parents do feed them nutritious food. So this is totally right in some point, not always. See your hypothetical. Only if it's the narrative you prefer. It takes time. But I'm sure one day you somehow, not totally, not like 100%, but 50% you agree with this author. Try to understand the perspective of the author. Not every line he wrote is totally right, but 80 or 70% is right and related with the human natures. Can you explain this last comment? I didn't understand. The extreme entrepreneur. At first glance, this type seems to possess very positive qualities, especially. Hey, ये तो पढ़ी थी. नहीं पढ़ा. Think of the positive नहीं पढ़ा. The extreme entrepreneur. Okay, we will discuss it later. I mean tomorrow. That's all for today. Thank you for being there. And thank you for understanding these topics and discuss with me so clearly. Thank you. Tata.